It's a pleasure to present Arianna and Laura and this seminar, who is, of course, part of the Transgang Project, but also is related to some recent publications that Arianna will explain later. And I also will say welcome to the Transgang researchers, but also the invitees by other networks like Eurogang and other scholars. A short presentation of the speakers. Arianna Fernández Planeix is an associate professor of media studies at the Polytechnic University in Valencia. She holds a bachelor's in arts in journalism and a master in social communication, and a PhD in communication from Pompeu Fabra University. By the way, I have the honor and the pleasure to have been one of the advisors with Mónica Figueras of their thesis on the 15 May movement in Barcelona. Arianna teaches journalism, interactive communication, and new media. She has carried out research into social movements, youth, and virtual communication. And currently, she is undertaking research on the mediated role of gang members as a researcher of our Transgang project. The discussant of this session will be Laura Pérez Altave, that she is also a lecturer and researcher in DigiDoc research group at the UPF. She received a PhD in social communication from UPF some years ago, with a thesis about social movements and network analysis in the context of the so-called Arab Spring in Tunisia. Her doctoral thesis obtained the extraordinary doctoral thesis award from the UPF. She has published her research in several indexed journals, and she has participated in national projects dedicated to the study of media and network society. This is the first seminar, Transgang Training Seminar of this semester. So it's heavy to start again with virtual online communication, but in this case, it's very coherent with the object of study. So Arianna, you have the possibility of explain what is going on about this research on gangs and social media.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. I'm gonna share my slides. A minute. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here and to have the opportunity to share the results of this research. Usually this, as you already explained, Carles, these seminars sometimes are internal seminars, but today we decided to open, so welcome everybody. And okay, so I'm going to introduce the topic and what we are going to do today here. So the seminar, as you said, Carles, is firstly aimed to present the results of the paper we have recently published in New Media and Society, and also secondly, with Laura Pérez, but also with all of you, the idea is to discuss the challenges emerging for the study of gangs online in the Transgang Project. As an introduction to the topic of this seminar, we can say that the internet and social media are transforming social relations and the way in which people, especially the young, interact. Of course, this also applies for urban gangs who have adopted this new communicative practice as part of their everyday experiences. Gangs with a presence on the earliest social networking sites, such as MySpace, nowadays also have presence in the newest networking services. It could be in part because the online universe can offer gang members a space in which they can construct their digital identity. Actually, unlike the traditional media, digital platforms offer these gangs a place for cultural construction via self-representation and their online practices. Together with this trend, gang literature is reflecting the importance of social media in gang lifestyle. That's why a general overview of research outcomes in this field is needed. In response to this, the present study seeks to provide an updated literature review about gangs in social media. We also seek to identify methodological publications that develop research protocols for studying gangs online. Thirdly, we aim to determine the specific parameters, dimensions, and variables employed in the research protocols of studies of gang use of social media, such as topics, methods, media under study, privacy issues, and so on. And finally, we seek to reveal the structural characteristics of the research community publishing on this topic, location, size, authors, etc. And of course, as I already said, I would like to discuss the next steps for researching gangs in social media in this project. Okay, but how have we carried out this literature review? Okay, so the first step was the selection of the sample. So involved identifying the academic literature on gangs and social media. To do so, we created a list of topic-related terms, which we divided in two sections. On the one hand, that related to gang research, and on the other, that related to social media. These terms were extracted from the titles, abstracts, and keywords. And finally, we have a total of 16 terms, and we defined a complex search query combining all these terms. Later, we submitted the query to Scopus, and well, you can see the search query syntax in the slide in blue. So at the end of the process, we had a total of 251 unique documents. However, a significant number of publications were not related to social networking sites. So we then undertook a manual review to exclude all non-relevant documents, as well as those documents that could not be accessed online or weren't in English. So the final set includes a total of 73 references. Okay, the second step involved qualitative and quantitative content analysis of the selected reference. To do so, we created an evaluation model comprising a set of variables and categories covering a comprehensive number of dimensions related to the research designs of the studies. Here you can see the evaluation model. But I know it's difficult to see. You can check it on paper. Here is the table download from the paper. So you can see that we have many variables and categories. So for example, we have population under study, level of description, topic, subtopic, methodology, techniques, gang name, gang sample, content sample, region of study, country of study, sphere, media of analysis, social media profile, typology, ethics, participation of gang members, privacy. Well, there are many. So you can check it later if you want. Okay. And we have a third step that involves undertaking a bibliometric analysis of the academic literature. And we only considered literature indexed in the Scopus database. That means that only 42 documents were analyzed in this bibliometric analysis. But let's move to the main results of the study. As expected, the literature examining gangs and social media focuses mainly on gangs as the primary object of the study. 63 of 73 publications, with gangs being typically considered as group or collective. rather than as individuals. And to a lesser degree, the literature focuses also on institutions such as the police, law enforcement agencies, or academia, social workers, and so on. But when talking about topics covered, the literature about gangs and social media faces a range of different topics. It stands out the use that gangs make of social media, in the slide is purpose, with 53 publications. Among these publications that we categorize as purpose, scholars especially focuses on criminal online activities of gang members and the links between their social media use and offline violence. We can also find among these studies publications focusing on the use of social media for identity construction, for expressing grief and mourning, for glorifying gang life, and for recruiting new members. But other topics detected in the literature include the former actual social media use with 14 publications, or the potential use that the police and law enforcement forces might make of social media. Studies also seek to develop research protocols and methods for studying gangs online. And some scholars have also studied the network of a specific gang by tracing their relationships and identifying opinion leaders, and by targeting communities, locations, and groups. Few studies also address the challenges and opportunities of social media as agents for social intervention and mediation. And typically, this topic is raised for discussion, being identified as an important issue for future exploration rather than the study's main focus. Finally, gender studies remain also understudied in this field. Okay. Focusing on the methods, qualitative approaches predominate among the studies of gangs and social media, with 40 publications, followed by mixed methods and quantitative methods. Quantitative. Among the qualitative techniques, we find, for example, qualitative content analysis and textual analysis, interviews, qualitative literature reviews. Among the quantitative methods, machine learning is the most frequently used technique, followed by surveys and social network analysis. But we also studied the samples used in the studies, and we have detected that the United States is the country in which most fieldwork has been conducted, 33 publications, followed by Canada and the United Kingdom. Second, many publications do not, in fact, specify the name of gangs under a study, preferring to reference the city, the community, or the particular gang family, such as bikers. However, when a gang is mentioned, we find a prevalence of African American and Latino gang names. Third, as expected, the literature is based mainly on online research. It's normal, no? Followed by research that combines both online and offline study of gangs. Fourth, Twitter is the most frequently studied media platform, followed by Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, MySpace, blogs, and the web. Fifth, most publications describe individual profiles, followed by combined personal and institutional profiles, and thus describing only institutional profiles. And six, the number of gang members studies and the size of the content under analysis can vary greatly, ranging from just one or a few users to a much larger sample. But let's move to ethical issues. That is one of the main focus of this seminar. As researchers, when dealing with the analysis of social media posts, we always need to have in mind the privacy and respect of the participants' rights, but especially when studying youth street groups. Anonymity is one formula for protecting them, but our analysis shows that there are more publications that fail to anonymize or only partially anonymize participants than publications in which both users and their content are anonymized. That's the table. You can see the results on table 2. The active participation of gang members in the research process is another formula for addressing the ethical concerns. However, according to our analysis, only 6 of the 73 publications acknowledge it, including in the research team a gang member. And institutions are even less involved in the research process. As a matter of fact, few publications discuss the ethical issues associated with the research. We should stress, however, that the fact that these other studies didn't explicitly mention any ethical concerns or protocols does not necessarily imply that their authors did not adhere to ethical and methodological protocols. Meaning that, okay, maybe they use, but they don't specifically say it at the paper or at the chapter. Okay, moving to the bibliometric analysis, we have detected that the earliest publication dates from 2009 and compares Sunni extremists, jihadis, and Mexican-American street gang members, cholos, use of YouTube. This publication date points to a significant delay in the emergence of this line of research, especially if we consider that the first social networking site, the 6 Degrees, was created in 1970 and YouTube itself was launched in 2005. So 4 years later appears the first paper, the first publication related to gangs in social media. The United States is the clear leader in the field, accounting for 69% of publication output, again followed by the United Kingdom, Australia and Canada. And in line with this trend, the institutions with the highest number of publications are Columbia University, University of Chicago, and University of Michigan. The specific centers or fields to which the authors are affiliated with institutions are social work, criminology, and technology. Inside technology, we include communication studies, computer science, and information science. And I have to say that as a researcher coming from media study and working in the Transgang Project with anthropologists and sociologists, I was surprised by the small presence of these fields that have traditionally been linked to the object of study. The set of publications includes mainly journal articles, but also book chapters, conference papers, and reviews, with a total of 93 authors, among which Patton from the Columbia University stands out as being the most productive and also the most cited author with 13 publications. Here you have in table 3, you can see authors and publications, citations, authorships, etc. As I said, everything is on the paper, so if you want, well, at the end also, of course, you can ask any question you have. Actually, Patton, this author, Desmond Patton, has established an extensive network of co-authors, up to 38, actually, 38 authors. But here in this slide, you can see like the different authors and their authorship network. In table 4, we can see the publications with the greatest number of citations received according to different database, Scopus, Google Scholar, and Web of Science. So we can see. And as we can see, only 7 publications received at least 20 citations. The article entitled Internet Banging, New Trends in Social Media, Gang Violence, Masculinity, and Hip Hop by Patton, it all emerged as the most cited publication with 71 citations. The data is from end of 2019. Okay, and here we can see the co-citation map of documents where we can see the most cited papers that were according with the previous data, Patton and Piros has a lot of citations. And finally, in this figure, we can see the terms employed by authors in the titles and abstract of their publications. Here we have detected and extracted a total, well, more than 1,000 terms. And social media, gang, and violence are the most frequently used. And in the case of specific media platforms, Twitter and Facebook are the most frequently employed. However, while Twitter seems to be closely related to research on such topics as violence, youth, and crime, Facebook seems to be more closely related to research on topics of membership, groups, and online identity. And that's something that I would like to highlight. Okay, and as a conclusion section, our analysis of the existing publication has allowed us to identify several challenges that future studies will have to face, including, of course, the Transgang Project. So the first challenge is differentiating between personal and group behavior in social media. Again, I apologize for the slide, but it's the only way that I can put all the information together. So this table is also published in the paper and better explained. So this challenge, we refer that despite the fact that the data used by researchers are mainly extracted from personal social media profiles, especially in Twitter, gangs tend to be studied at the group level. This approach can result in the criminalization of the entire youth street group. And furthermore, data need to be placed in context, as gang members can modify their behavior according to the audience and if it is public or private, if the information is going to be public or not. The second challenge is expanding coverage of topics and communities. The literature review shows that research to date in this field is primarily interested in how gangs use social media and what they actually do online, with a particular focus on the relationship between violence on and offline. However, in line with the interest of the Transgang Project, few studies have addressed the challenges and opportunities of social media as agents for social intervention and mediation. Similarly, the potential of social media as a tool for the construction of gang identity to counter the portrayals of gangs offered by the traditional media, such as TV series or news, etc., and need to be also more explored. Future research should also seek to explore questions that are currently emerging from gang and youth studies, including gender and LGBTQ+ issues. And as recent studies have highlighted, future research needs to instigate in a comparative approach, not only of territories, but also of the age and gender groups. Other challenge researchers have to face is selecting, reclassifying, and interpreting data. Some members of the academic community are warning against automatic targeting based on social media content. Here, the challenge is to overcome the typically racialized bias of automatic interpretations of data obtained from social media that can lead to the criminalization and labeling of street groups. Accessing online social media data is other challenge that need to be faced. Most of the publication review are based on Twitter data. However, we need to consider whether Twitter is the most frequently used platform by gangs or whether it is simply the most data accessible network services. Where in the social media are gang members today? We can debate about this later because we had to face this problem too. Data access is one of the greatest challenges researchers have to face when studying gangs on social media. But in parallel, concerns about the ethics of social media studies and the privacy of participants from these groups emerge in relation to the analysis of this data. Thus, we believe that research community need to develop a more consensual social media research protocol for working with youth street groups in order to address concerns about privacy, anonymity, and data surveillance in the research process, from the initial design to data dissemination. So we have to have in mind all these things in all the process. We believe that a dialogue with other disciplines facing similar challenges in the use of social media, such as media studies, social movement studies, and data science studies, can help to find the path altogether. Another challenge is obtaining research content and involving gang members in the social media research process. As detected, few studies focusing on social media and gangs actually involve the population under study as part of the research team. We have examples, including the Transgang Project, but are the less. However, so wherever possible, research should seek include them, as we believe that it will enhance qualitative interpretations of social media artifacts, and we can also help gang members participants. Another challenge is, well, you can see here that there are challenge, risks, and recommendations. I don't have time to explain all of them, but at least I would like to give some ideas about them. So another is identifying theoretical and practical implications. The introduction of analysis of the use of social media in gang studies seems likely to have an impact on gang definitions and the work of urban ethnographers. And finally, fostering, the last challenge is fostering interdisciplinarity and international collaborations. So that's the list of challenge, risk, and recommendations that we have detected, and I would like to debate and discuss with all of you. But to conclude, we would like to briefly explain what's next in the Transgang project related to the social media analysis. Of course, the Transgang project is, as all of you know, it's big, and this is a small part, but we would like. So we want to get an accurate picture of the self-representation of the Latin Kings in social media, because we are going to focus in Latin Kings first, and then we will see if we expand to another street groups. So we will focus first on Latin Kings. So we want to understand how Latin Kings members use social media and interact with social media population. Having in mind these aims, we want to answer the following questions. No, at least we would like to answer some of them. No? For example, one of the questions when we were working on the project and preparing the methods and everything, some of the questions were like, are the Latin Kings in social media individually or as part of a group? Who follow, comment, or interact with Latin King members in social media, and the same with whom they interact. Who and how do authorities emerge in the network? What do Latin Kings use social media for? What topics do they talk about according to the actors, the moment, and the event? What is the taxonomy surrounding the Latin Kings in social media? Or what kind of content do Latin Kings share on social media? Photos, links, emoji, what else? What sentiment predominates in their social media communications? Are they positive, negative, complaining? What are, no? Are there any territorial traces? So street gangs usually are really territorial, but what happens when we go online? Related to gender issues, how is masculinity and femininity represented online among the Latin Kings? And thinking about the context of these groups and these youth, what is their vision for the present and the future? They are young people, so what they believe, are they positive that have they hope about the future or not? No. So this is, of course, many other questions can arise, but this is some of the questions that I wanted to share with you, and to know what do you think, if you find it interesting, or you think that there is something missing. So to do so, we define a protocol for virtual ethnography with Latin Kings. First, together with Cesar and Maria, that are former members of the Latin Kings, we defined keywords related to this group, and then a search a query for social media. Secondly, we also detected video, public pages, and public groups related to the Latin Kings, with their help always, also trying with these keywords. Then we decided which social media we wanted or not wanted could analyze. So we decided to analyze Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We defined a period of analysis. In the case of Twitter and YouTube, it's all. So we did the search, and we have all the videos and all the Twitter, all the tweets related to the keywords that we searched. In the case of Facebook, it was different. We only analyzed 1 year because we did it manually. We then downloaded the data, and we are currently deciding and designing our methods of analysis, quantitative and qualitative. We decided to mix to proceed with the data analysis. So we are here, so we are still on time to change anything if you have any recommendation or any advice. And the last step after the analysis of the, so we would like to validate the analysis, the results together with the Latin King members via focus group or interviews. We also wanted to include Latin King members to participate in the data analysis, but due to tempos, I'm not sure we are going to do it. Where Maria has participated in the Facebook analysis, but I'm not sure it's going to be possible in the Twitter and YouTube analysis. Okay, so to finish, to conclude, I have to say that I have previously worked with youth in social media, analyzing youth behavior in social media. However, it is my first time studying youth street groups or gangs online. And facing this research made me question our research approach, and it has raised many issues such as how and when should the participation of gang members be enhanced, as I already commented. Can we differentiate between gang members and public opinion for the data analysis? Because we are saying that we want to know how Latin Kings interact, what they talk about, but how do we know that they are members of the Latin King? Then there are also issues related to data access, ethics, and bias in the interpretation. Another question is public social media a reflection of youth street groups life, of gang life? What does it mean? And is it different from any other young person? Because they are young people participating in the social media. So what is different from any other young person? Is social media used by Latin Kings to counteract mainstream media representations? Because we believe in the potential of the social media to counteract these representations, these traditional media representations, but are they really doing that? So as you can see, the research is really open. We have many questions, so you try to go and to do your research, but then every day when you have to face the data, the analysis, many new questions arise. So thank you very much for your attention. As I said, you have all the information on the paper. If you are interested, you can also write me. Well, most of you are from the project, so we can chat any other day. So thank you very much. I'm more than happy to answer your questions, but I guess that first, Laura, it's your turn.
So thank you, Ariadna. I start with my intervention, or
Yes, go away, Laura.
Okay,
It's
thank
your
you.
turn.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to this seminar. It's my pleasure to stay here with all of you, and also congratulations, Ariadna, for your excellent and clear presentation. Let me start with some comments on the paper Gangs on Social Media, a systematic literature review and an identification of future challenges, risks, and recommendations. First, I would like to congratulate the authors, Dr. Ariadna Fernández-Planels, Dr. Enrique Orduña Malea, and Professor Carles Feixas for their inspiring work and for the contribution on the file. I think this type of paper that carry out a systematic review of the literature are very valuable and allows progress in research, in this case, of gangs and social media. To start with the discussion, let me introduce the first topic that Ariadna, you have introduced in your presentation, the self-representation of the members of job street groups in social media. As you have explained in your presentation, the next step of your future research has to do with getting an accurate picture of the self-representation of the Latin kings in social networks. At this point, I have some comments and questions. You are researching the Latin king as a group, but in your your network analysis, you are analyzing the individual accounts of the members. So my concern is to what extent they identify themselves as Latin king on social media to say that they are reflecting the opinion of the group. So the questions are in what sense they post and the content that they share on social media are different from any other young person. What are the content that differentiate the position from Latin kings to not to individual, and can we differentiate between gang members and public opinion for the data analysis, and if can we get a reflection on gang life by analyzing the content that the members are posting on social media.
Okay, so thank you, Laura, for your words and your questions. I try to answer. Of course, if someone else wants to participate, they can. So, okay, first of all, I want to clarify that we still have to undertake the analysis, but the questions that you express are our concerns also. So the first question I think that you asked me, okay, if the posts are different from other, so how can we identify Latin team members? Actually, we don't want to target and we don't want to identify, oh, okay, this person is part of the Latin Kings, because we don't want to participate in this process, but at the same time we need to say that, okay, we are analyzing. So this is something that we are discussing, internally discussing, because we think that, okay, for example, we are not doing, we are doing another study that we are searching for the public opinion about gangs. So this is a different study. So okay, we search, the query for searching was Latin kings, gangs, etc. And in this case, we have searched for specific words that it's supposed that Latin king members use. Specific words, we have like a glossary of specific. Of course, we also have Latin kings, but then we have Amor de Reina, Amor de Rey, ADR, and so on. So we expect that it's supposed that people who are not part of these groups do not use these words, but we don't know it. So probably when we present our results, we still, as I said, we still don't have it. Probably we will have to say, okay, gang members or people surrounding, youth street groups or sympathizing, with these groups, at least to know that these words are used by these groups. But as I said, we don't want to target. We are not trying to create. For example, we in our literature review, we found some publications that are focused on developing a tool to detect gang members. We don't want to do that. This is not our focus. But we want to understand. We want to better know this group, the Latin King. Also, you say, okay, individually, this is part of the results, that, okay, most of the research studies study gangs. Actually, they go to Twitter, so they have individual profiles, but then they talk about the gang, but they are. This is a problem that we also have to face, It's like, okay, for example, in Facebook, we went with Maria and with Joao, two researchers of the Transgang Project. We went to the groups that groups where Latin King members usually participate. So in this way, of course, we are analyzing individuals, but inside a group page or public group that is supposed to be linked to Latin Kings and also moderated by members of the Latin Kings. In Twitter and YouTube, it will be different, and we have to see, of course, how we are going to present this data, when we send a paper or a chapter or in a conference. Yes, this is something that we have to think that, okay, we are going to talk about what? Latin Kings or individually, and this is one of the challenges that we said. And I think that in general, I believe I answered all your questions. You asked me also about if if social media posts are reflecting gang life, This is something we want to answer. I'm not able to answer you now. This is something we want to answer, and if we will find something different from the common people, because, for example, Twitter is well known as a social media for hate, So trolls, everything. So, okay, we are going to find something different or not. We'll see. Sorry, I can't answer you now.
So thank you very much, Arianna and Laura.
We have another question, I think, that Laura wanted to.
Okay, go away.
Yes. So the next question has to do with the idea of public opinion and the members of the youth street group as individuals of a group. In some sense, they are operating within the digital public sphere. So, Arianna, do you think that this representation can counteract the mainstream media representation of youth street groups?
Shortly, I will say that yes. I think that social media can counteract these mainstream media representations, but we have to see if actually they do it. I'm not sure if they are aware of the potential of social media to counteract this image. So I believe that what I see is that there are people doing that consciously, and there are others who they are on social media because they are young. They are there, well, young or not young, all of us, we have social media profiles. So they are there without thinking if they are counteracting or not the traditional media. And some of them, they know it and they try to counteract. So it depends also if they are displaying individually or a group, or that is something that we have to dive to go deep. Yeah.
Well, beyond reading the paper, another concept that can arise in the research has to do with research ethics and the privacy of individuals. When the studies of social network platforms became popular, in most cases, researchers didn't take ethical considerations into account. Actually, in this point, I'm talking from my own experience. When I started researching social movements on social networks, I didn't think about it, but today I try to take into account these ethical considerations on my research. It's true that I think it's different if we are analyzing official accounts, such as the official accounts of a movement, political party, or politicians, for example, or we are researching about individuals or vulnerable groups. As your paper reflects, there is a trend towards the increasingly use of privacy protocols over time. There are different strategies: anonymize the accounts, the content, paraphrase messages, and so on. In this sense, researchers have to deal with another related aspect, the transparency in research. I think that the ideal formula would be to find a balance between protecting the most vulnerable and the transparency of the research process, from the data collection to the interpretation of this data. Do you have planned how to deal with this situation in your research? What strategies do you think are the best in relation to the treatment of your data, from the data collection to the interpretation of this data?
Okay. So yes, we are we are working on that. We have the ethical also. Each university we have our ethical team, no? And the Transgang Project has especially care with that, and we have Adam who's participating now. But also, as we are a group outside Pompeu Fabra University, we are in Valencia. We have our own protocol, but of course it is agreed with the Transgang Project. So first of all, only few researchers have access to raw data. So we download the data ethically. I mean that we have an account. We open an account in Twitter as a social researcher, and we are downloading the data. In YouTube the same, with the API, with the official API. In the case of Facebook, we did it manually because we don't have access. We apply through Crowdtangle, I think it was, but they didn't give us access. So we decided to do it manually. So that's the first, like we apply to data, we downloaded the data through APIs, official APIs, then only few researchers have access to raw data. What else? We have protocols for secure communications and data storage. That's the previous part, no, before the analysis. Then we anonymize the data. So it means that if more researchers are going to have access to the data, at least we are going to delete the name and the user and the link of the post. So you can only have access to the content itself. And then we still have to publish the analysis. Well, we have to undertake the analysis and then publish, but we have decided that we, of course, everything is going to evolve. Probably in 1 year when we are going to publish something, we will have more reference, but we decided that we are going to anonymize the user and also the content. So it's not going to be published in order to protect the place under study. More or less, I think that I answered your question.
So the third question has to do with methods. As the paper highlights, qualitative approaches are the predominant among studies of GAN on social media, being qualitative content analysis and textual analysis the most frequently techniques employed. While I was reading this paper, this part of the paper, I was surprised by the low presence of the studies that use social network analysis, because I come from media studies. In this sense, I believe that when we are researching on social media, the best methods that we can employ to get a fully understanding of our object of study are the mixed methods. We can use the quantitative approach, for example, the social network analysis or surveys, to get the structure of this relation within the network, that's the interactions of the network, and combine it with a qualitative approach, such as interviews of content analysis, to get the sense and meaning of these relations. What techniques have you planned to employ in your research? You combine qualitative and quantitative, or what is your approach to the object of study?
Yeah, I come from media studies too, so yes, we are going to use network analysis and content analysis. We have worked Laura together with this kind of well, with social movements, but so the idea is to undertake social network analysis in a quantitative way, but also in a qualitative way, then the content analysis, because okay, the social network analysis give us an idea of the community, but then some of the questions that I shared with you in the slides, we need qualitative analysis going to the content, but we also want so the content analysis is going to, this is the part where I want Joseph Street groups members to participate in the analysis, but I'm not sure we will have time. So the idea is to analyze this course in a qualitative way, manually, and have the analysis. But then also we want to use more quantitative protocols, for example, with the taxonomy. No, we want to have a taxonomy, so this is going to be automatically and quantitative, of course. So the idea is to mix all of them and then finish with more classical, also more social methods, you know, with research, with interviews or social or group to contrast our data with the opinion.
Okay, so finally, to conclude with this discussion, I would address a topic that I think is important to reflect. In your paper, as have you pointed out in your presentations, the authors with more prominence within the scope of study are scholars from the United States. It's true that you have performed the search on the database Scopus and Google Scholar in English language, and this is a bias, but there are a prominence of scholars from the United. When I read this result, I started to think in one concept that I have heard recently, the decolonization of academia. Actually, last week in a CREA conference, there was a roundtable about this concept, and some scholars reflected about this phenomenon, the decolonization of academia. There are some projects that have been working on this idea for a while. For example, the Big Data from the South initiative of the project COVID-19 from the Margins, both led by Stefania Milan and Emiliano Trere. Thinking in this seminar, the project, and your research, as all of us know, the Transgang Project covers different contexts from the south of Europe, the north of Africa, and South America. So have you planned to carry out a comparative study between these different contexts? So because I think continuing with this idea of the colonization of academia, it could be an interesting idea to explore in the future research.
Okay, so first of all, I have to acknowledge that our bibliometric analysis was restricted to publications indexed in a Scopus, while our content analysis was restricted to publication in the English language. So our study is inherently biased towards English publications. But moving to the analysis that we are going to do now and to the Transgang project, this first approach is going to be only with Latin Kings, and we don't have a comparative focus, but the idea is that after finishing this analysis, we want to share in another seminar, training seminar, we want to share our methodology and our results, and then to involve another researcher from the Transgang projects that are from around the globe to participate, and if they want to replicate, and then try to have a comparative approach. But talking about decolonization, this is something that we have been talking inside the group. Actually, with Joao and with Maria, we have sent, well, we have written something about that, no? Using author from the South, etc. Of course, we are, even if we are South Europe, we still are Western countries, no? So I guess we have to decolonize ourselves. But yeah, it's really interesting what you have said. The projects that you mentioned, I know them, and yeah, this is something that is it was under the table, now is in the table. So this is something that we have always in mind in this project. And yeah, of course, our aim is to have a comparative, but we are going to start focusing only with Latin Kings. Thank you, Laura, for your questions.
So I think now it's you finish both of you. It has been very clear, Ariadna's presentation, and also the questions of Laura have been very precise and very clear. It's a perfect analysis of the presentation, but also of the paper in which the presentation is based. In any case, now is the key issue of this seminar is how street gangs who were born face to face in the street corner, in the streets, in the public space, evolved to be also present in the cyberspace, in other kind of corners, in the cyber corners. And of course, Ariadna's question of about how how gang life online reflects gang life offline is a key question, not only for gangs but for all social groups. Now we have a moment for questions, comments, and reflections of the participants in this seminar. So who will start? Take voice or the hand on? Miriam, I think, are you able to make a question or comment?
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
I thought it was really interesting to hear about your project, and especially to hear about the idea of actually involving gang members in research. I work within psychology, but I've not really seen that considered before. So I was wondering if you guys ran into any issues in terms of managing risk with looking at how that might work. if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think that I'm not sure what kind of risk are you talking exactly, but yeah, there are many for us, for them, for so in the case of social media, we have already people involved in the project, so so they are informed about the risk, about what we are going to do. They know everything. We are trying to involve more people participating in the project, especially for the last, well, the interviews at the end of the analysis and or for the focus group. But Maria and Cesar, who are currently working on the project, they are even before the project starts. Here, I think that about the risk and everything, I think that Carles can answer you better, because this is something that they have to have in mind all the time, and they have also to explain to the European Union that it sometimes is complicated, because you have a research project and you have to explain everything, the ethical issues, etc. And I know that they have to fight a lot to explain and to make comprehensible what this project is doing, no? Because as you said, usually we go with research people and we go back, no, and write about them, but we don't introduce them inside. So in this way, if Carles wants, I think that he can give you more information, even Adam or Maria.
Yes, maybe Adam can inform about. We have a protocol of risk reduction in the Transgang project, but also, of course, there are specific risks online that are different, a bit different from offline. In the streets, of course, the physical risks are more under the field. Online, there are other kind more symbolic, for instance, the hate speech or the hate interactions that can develop later. Also, why not to say the police are surveying all the social interactions by gang members online on social networks, on Facebook, etc. But this is not our duty, the research, because the police and the security forces are always trying to follow the internet scene. The only thing we researchers, if we do research online, do is doing more visible this space for the worst and for the best. Maybe Adam, you can complete my opinion.
Yeah, sure. I kind of thought my name might come up as soon as I heard the word risk in the research process. So, yeah, I mean, I guess with this kind of research, it's inherently going to carry some risk. This is the nature of this kind of research, and so the only other option is to not do it. And so if we accept that it's necessary to have this knowledge, if we accept that this is of social value, then we have to accept that there are inherent risks with the research project. And so the strategy that we tried to take is to identify what those projects started and to take them as seriously as possible. So part of that was me being involved in the team as an internal ethics advisor. We have an external ethics board, which is only specific to this project, and we have reporting mechanisms and continual managerial oversight that in other kinds of ethnography probably wouldn't be that hands-on, but it's about knowing what's going on in the field, and it's about being able to respond to any risks that emerge as they emerge. But I think in terms of having ex-gang members or gang members, I mean, this is part of the knowledge. This is how we manage risks. I mean, our field workers have relationships with gangs or are former gang members, and that means they're best placed to be able to manage those risks in a culturally sensitive way, and to be able to perceive what is a risk and what isn't a risk, you know, in a way. So I think the part of the strategy that we've been developing is to have that kind of, that knowledge is an asset in managing risks, if you see what I'm saying. So I think I'd leave it there.
No, thank you. And I'm sorry my camera's on the fritz, so I don't know if I'm appearing or if I'm just a black bloop. But thank you for all your answers. I work with managing risk within psychology, so I'm a bit biased, but it's an area of interest for me.
Thank you for your question too. Are there other questions or comments?
If not, well,
Yes, I have.
You
I have one more technical. It's the question of the source, which network. The fact that Twitter is the only open source to be analyzed is, of course, is a problem, because we know qualitatively that that gang members are using other social networks, mainly Facebook, but today also TikTok and Instagram. But how do we combine this mix? Because in your analysis, mixed methods were also very important. And the evolution of media studies and gang studies, I think, go away into mixed methods, not separate qualitative and quantitative, but to use mixed methods. And also is what we are trying to do, not only with your project related to Transgang, but with a project related to Lebanon, including a network analysis in Spain, in Ecuador, in El Salvador. So how do we can manage to combine the use of the analysis of Twitter, that is very general, with the more micro and qualitative analysis of Facebook and other, also for the analysis of the image that are very important in this case, no? The photographs and the etc.
Okay. So first of all, yeah, data access is a big problem in this case, and of course, I think that I said before, our behavior, not only user street groups members, also our own behavior is different if we are talking in WhatsApp, in Twitter, in Facebook, in Instagram, no? If we are doing reels or what we are doing, no? It changes. So this we wanted to study also WhatsApp. We asked some members to permission, but here emerges two different things. On the one hand, okay, we want it because this is more personal, more real, no? It's something internal, it's where we talk more natural. Okay, we want to know how they interact there. But at the same time, it's okay, this is something really, really personal. Is it ethical to be there? It's not. So finally, we decided to stop and not to go there. Even I think that even if we wanted, we couldn't, you know. So then we decided, okay, let's see where we can do the analysis. As you have seen, most of the papers analyze Twitter, and Twitter is, I see. I have, for example, Cesar in different social media networks, and his behavior is really different in Twitter than in Instagram. For me, the less interesting, maybe as a researcher, is the Twitter account, no? Because it's the most public profile, no? So this is something we have to have in mind. It's different. Facebook, even us, we interact and our behavior is different in Facebook than in Instagram, than in TikTok, than in Twitter. So we have to have in mind that we are studying different communities in different contexts. So I think this is not a problem to many papers. Actually, they study only, or most of them, only one social media. We want to combine all of them and publish it all together. We don't want to split. Okay, it's interesting. Probably academically thinking, we will have more publication if we talk. Okay, one publication about Twitter, another about Facebook, but we want to mix all together because we think that it the richer, the most interesting thing is combining all these. No, okay, because maybe. Of course, we will have big data from Twitter and YouTube, and we will see a way of interacting, of behavior, and then we will have Facebook more qualitative. But I think that we are going to find different behaviors, different ways, because not because they are gang members, just because each context is different and we act differently in an academic context, in our home. So it's the same for social media. So we are going to try to mix the results and to have I think that is something that is not has not been done. To see, okay, in Twitter, Latin Kings or people using these keywords are acting in this way, here in this way, here. We will, I expect to find some points in common, but also different things, and it's an expectation. I still have to see, we have to see, but I think that it will be something interesting to mix all of them, all the different contexts. So thank you for your question.
I don't know if Candy were willing to make a question.
No, Carles, me encendió por accidente. Gracias.
Okay. No te preocupes. Bienvenida eres. Welcome.
Okay. Anyway, if you have any question, any recommendation, any advice, I will be more than happy if you send me in another context, if you don't want to ask me now, or you have an idea later, because this is something is like, okay, what we want from the social media analysis, no? At the end, we have detected that many studies have focused in knowing what gang members are doing online, and we are going to do the same. We have but most of the studies are searching for violence or the relation between online and offline violence, and we are our focus is different. We want to search for mediation, for other kind of practices, but at the end is, okay, we are searching what are they doing online. So if you have any specific interest, something that you want to see different, or oh, I think that it will be interesting if you focus on that, because sometimes it's like you need space and time to see it, and sometimes as we in Spanish say, no, like new eyes can give another point of view. So maybe I'm not able to see something, and you, all of you, after this presentation, maybe you have some idea. And of course, as you know, we have another colleague working on media representations that I think that it will be really interesting comparing our results with the media representation. So social media versus traditional media representation. I think that it could be really interesting.
Perfect. So as we have all your emails, people who are participating in this seminar, we will try to send the certifying of this participation, but also, if possible, the paper or the link to the paper, to the article that Arianna and others, including me, have published this article. Now, we will finish the session, but I think it's Katia. Katia, sorry, Katia, could you make final words?
Yeah.
And also,
on,
if you can send this this paper to the participants in the session.
okay. Thank you all for all our assistants. We give you the certificate, or say Carlos, and we hope see you at the next seminar.